Hi, my name is Tori Jacobson, and the research project that I've conducted has been on the topic of human evolution through food. Humans, or Homo sapiens, have evolved to become the species that they are today, and this has occurred undoubtedly through many different occurrences and selective processes. But the question and theory being discussed here is how food has played a role in human development. The main difference between what humans eat and what other species eat is mainly in how humans prepare food. So we will focus on how cooking food was a big change for human development and the evidence that supports this. Common theories of the advantages of a cooked diet include an increase in energy, easier digestion of food, a defense against diseases, and an increase in brain size. These theories were proved correct through two research studies, in which one proved that foods that are easier to digest allow for higher energy gain from that food, and the other that showed improvement in caloric intake and increase in size with cooked foods. Homo sapiens is the human species that has evolved over millions of years from its primate ancestors. Humans are so unlike the other animal and plant species on the earth in that they seem to have evolved so much further and more rapid than any other species. The human brain is much more developed, and the technological developments created by humans far surpass those that have been made by any other animal species. There have been vast studies and theories that have been made on how humans have evolved, including ones based on climate changes, geographical isolation, hybridization, and many more. One theory that stands out is how food has caused substantial evolution for humans. The evidence that cooking food led to human evolution includes that it allows for easier digestion, an increase in energy, and a better defense against diseases. Cooking food becomes significant because it's one of the factors that sets humans apart from any other animal species, so therefore it must have played a role in their evolution. Research today can show the advantages of cooking food, but thousands of years ago, there were other reasons for human ancestors to begin to cook their food. By looking at the timeline of human evolution, it helps to see what led human ancestors to cook their food and the changes that occurred in consequence that led to the evolution of what we now know as humans. The first major event in human evolution that was a step closer to human ancestors cooking was an increase in technology and tools. Stones were used as tools and allowed for reach of new food sources that needed to be cut or crushed. This advance in technology is estimated to have been around 2.6 million years ago, about 2 million years before the use of fire. At this point in the timeline, human ancestors hadn't started to cook their food, so most of their diet took a lot of time in their day to chew their food. Fruit and other plants took so long to chew and gnash that they didn't have the time or energy to chew meat. But the development of stone tools changed that. With the stone tools, they were able to cut raw meat up a lot smaller, which helped cut down on chewing time. Research was done on fecal matter from wild chimpanzees and gorillas to understand early human diets. By understanding the biomarkers in the feces samples and what kind of diet human ancestors had, the physiological changes that had to occur to be able to digest meat can be discovered. The study suggests that human ancestors slowly increasing nuts and seeds into their diet, their bodies were able to allow lipid digestion of meat in the small intestine. Being able to control fire was the next big step, which was able to progress human ancestors even further because of the many uses that fires provided. Not much longer after the use of fire was discovered was a rapid brain size starting to develop. The increase in brain size had been slow up until this point, which shows that being able to cook food and eat a bigger variety of food had a large part to do with it. The bigger brain size played a role in thought process development and also stronger and deeper understanding of the world around them. With all these evolutionary developments, human ancestors caused many significant modifications to their environment, which is known as niche construction. A couple hundred years later, and at the same time period that the Homo sapiens diverged into their own species, humans began to develop agricultural skills that led to breeding animals and farming. This time period of farming is known as the Neolithic era, and during this time, huge dietary shifts occurred due to the availability of new nutrients being introduced to human diets in various populations. Farming and the availability of a variety of different nutrients played its own part in human development as well. Research of plant biomarkers has shown that there are spatial patterns that prove that early human hunting occurred near forest areas and freshwater resources. Through this research, we can have a better understanding of the environments that surrounded the evolving human. When fire was first discovered and started being used, it had many uses and advantages, including being able to use it for protection, a source of warmth when the climate would change, a light source in the dark, and a way to cook a more variety of foods without getting sick. One of the most significant advantages from cooking food was being able to begin the process to break down the food before even beginning to eat it. From this advantage alone, it allowed for an increase in energy, since the body didn't have to do as much work to digest the food. Evidence of low energy intake in women eating predominantly raw foods is supported by their having higher rates of amenorrhea or menstrual irregularities than those eating cooked food. This evidence that with eating a raw diet causes low energy intake provides that without being able to cook food with fire, the human ancestors wouldn't have been as successful. The evidence shown that with females it hinders menstruation, which would then go on to hinder reproductive success so that the species wouldn't have been able to eat certain foods or they would have died out. Food nutritionists have continued to reconstruct the food pyramid, which consists of the food groups humans need to maintain to survive. And these are the modern foods that are needed in the evolved human. When different foods are introduced to the body, they will cause a change and cause a new consequence. With the broad new diet of the human ancestors due to cooking, there were advantages and disadvantages to foods. Research was compiled on different food processes and the effects they had on energy, and it is compiled in this table, which shows new ways of processing and preparing food that has an effect on the body. So certain foods have a higher digestibility than others, and it shows that the effect on the energy that's gained from those foods. When there are increases in technology, there can be changes made all around. And with the availability of fire, it allowed for human ancestors to begin eating food they were unable to eat raw. A change in diet causes changes throughout the body and caused for evolution. The scientist Richard Wrangham has devoted his research to the significance of cooking food on human evolution. In an interview, he was asked what physical changes humans developed as a result of cooking their food, to which he answered that changes in teeth, jaw, intestine size and shape, and even flatter face of humans have resulted due to a cooked diet. Cooking causes food to shrink, which allows more calories to be consumed in smaller portions. Being able to intake more calories was a huge advantage, and it is what caused a lot of the physical changes of human evolution. The increase in digestibility of cooked food was also a contributor of the physical changes because it didn't require as big of teeth and jaws to break down the food, and it also didn't require such large intestines to process the food. With a better understanding of the physical changes that occurred from a cooked diet, researchers' next step was to look into the genetic changes that had occurred. The hypothesis that cooked food is obligatory for modern humans predicts genetic signals of human adaptation to a cooked diet. The research done at Harvard University was discovering what genetic adaptations were made to human ancestors through a cooked diet. Changes in diet have shown genetic changes today, so the evidence must be there for the variations in human evolution. The researchers used 24 adult male mice for their experiment and fed them either raw or cooked meat or sweet potatoes, and after 5 days their livers were used to evaluate each mice genome. The results from this trial can be found in this figure. The conclusion that was drawn from the researchers was that overall their results drew new attention to the potentially transformative role of cooking for energy balance and food choice during human evolution. Their results support that certain food makes a bigger difference than others on genetics, and that selection could have been what led to human evolution. Human evolution has occurred over millions of years, and while it happened slowly at first, development over the last few hundred thousands of years has been rapid. More recent changes that have caused evolutionary change include the development of technology and tools, the discovery of controlled fire, and the advancements in agriculture. These changes are the most significant in human evolution. The discovery of fire brought with it the cooking of food, which allowed for human ancestors to broaden their diet and receive the benefits of a cooked diet. The advantages of a cooked diet that have been discussed include an increase in energy, easier digestion of food, a defense against diseases, and an increase in size. We reviewed 2 research studies that support these claims. One which proved that foods that are easier to digest allow for higher energy gain from that food, and the other that showed improvement in caloric intake and increase in size with cooked foods. By understanding the evolutionary changes that food has had on humans on a molecular level, we can better understand what foods are best for our health and our ability to survive in this ever-evolving world. Because most of human evolution began to occur during the Paleolithic era, researchers believe that human bodies aren't well equipped for today's diet. So studies can be done to better understand the ways in which humans learn eating habits and how those habits affect human physiology in order to create better, more useful nutritional tools. Future studies can help with this research by conducting experiments with controlled diets of certain foods and how they're prepared, and studying how the genome of the species is affected.